Hello everyone, myself Dr. Rana, Obs and Gynae faculty. Today I have brought a Raftar series for all the PG and FNG students. What this Raftar series is? In the Raftar series, I will be giving you short 30 Obs Gynae topics. From these topics, examiner had been asking the question twice or thrice in the recent exams. So, what to wait for? Let's join this Raftar series and excel in the exams. I will be giving you proof that these are the questions what the examiner has asked from these topics, and I will also be explaining the topic in a concise and conceptual manner. So the first topic in the Obs Gynae is diabetes in pregnancy and twins. Either the question comes from diabetes in pregnancy or twins. Today we will be discussing only diabetes in pregnancy. That is why I have written topic 1A. Diabetes in pregnancy is itself a very big topic. Examiner asked the question from either screening of diabetes, which is very important for FNG. Okay, we must know how we will screen the patient for diabetes in pregnancy. Second, the examiner asked second subtopic from where the examiner asked question is complication in the fetus and newborn of diabetic mother. Mother is suffering from diabetes. What all we can expect in the fetus and the newborn. And number 3 is management of diabetes in pregnancy. Right. So this is a question which has been asked in FNG July 23. Pregnant woman with history of diabetes, when to do diabetic screening in pregnancy, right? First visit 20 weeks, 24 weeks, 28 weeks. The another question again was asked in FNG Jan 24. How much glucose is used for screening of diabetes in pregnancy? 50 gram, 100 gram, 75 gram, 150 gram. Now let's study screening of diabetes in pregnancy as per DIPSI guidelines. DIPSI is the Indian Society, okay, for diabetes in pregnancy. DIPSI is an Indian society and we follow the Indian society norms, okay. As per the DIPSI norms, we have to do screening 2 times. First time the screening is done at when the patient comes to us as the first antenatal visit, and the second time we do screening at 24 to 28 weeks. Why we do it at 24 to 28 weeks? Because the HPL hormone, which is secreted in the pregnancy by the syncytial trophoblast, it has the property of insulin resistance. It has the property of insulin resistance. At 24 to 28 weeks, the volume, the amount of HPL is sufficient enough to cause gestational diabetes in a non-diabetic patient, right? And that is why we are doing its screening at 24 to 28 weeks. At the first antenatal visits, we are doing the screening just to rule out any pre-gestational diabetes mellitus present before the pregnancy, whether the patient was having the diabetes or not. Okay, so what the another guideline the DIPSI has given is one-step method. It has to be a one-step method. What do you understand by one-step method? There is no separate screening or diagnostic test. If screening is positive, it will be considered as positive gestational or pre-gestational diabetes mellitus. Screening is always to be done in the non-fasting state. Again, this applies very nicely in the Indian scenario because people are very unaware. If we will call them in the fasting state the next day, they will not come. So that is why DIPSI has told, please do screening in the non-fasting state because the next day the patient don't come up. What is the screening test? Post 75 gram glucose. So after giving 75 gram glucose to the patient on the first antenatal visit and 24 to 28 weeks, we will be getting 2 hours RBS done. After the 75 gram glucose the patient has taken, we will get the post that 2 hours we will get the RBS 10. If the value of the sugar is between 140 to 200, it means it is gestational diabetes mellitus, the less severe form. Okay, of course the gestational diabetes will be less severe, right? And if the values have crossed 200, it means it is pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, the overt diabetes. Okay, the severe diabetes. Overt diabetes are the severe diabetes. Okay, so if sugar values are more than 200, it is going to be pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, and if sugar values are less than 200, between 140 to 200, it is going to be gestational diabetes mellitus. Okay, so the answer to this question is diabetic screening is done in the first visit. Okay, first time it is done at first visit, and second time it is done at 24 to 28 weeks. How much glucose is used for screening of diabetes in pregnancy? So it is 75 gram. The other question which can expect it, after how much hours of 75 gram glucose we take the sample? The answer is 2 hours. And what are the diagnostic values to diagnose gestational diabetes and pre-gestational diabetes? The values are 140 to 200. It is gestational diabetes mellitus, and more than 200 it is pre-gestational or the severe diabetes or the overt diabetes. Now let's go to the another question. The question asked in NEET PG 20, which of the following condition in the mother is considered a major risk factor for the fetal anomaly depicted in the image? So what is the image? This is the image. Okay, if this is the image given, what is the fetal anomaly you will be depicting? So options were gestational diabetes mellitus, pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, valproate intake, ACE inhibitor intake. So here I would like to explain you that what are the complications in the diabetic pregnant fetus, in the mother of a diabetic pregnant fetus. Okay, so here the fetus gets congenital anomalies. Why congenital anomalies occur in a diabetic mother fetus? Because the fetus also suffer from the hyperglycemia. The maternal hyperglycemia induces fetal hyperglycemia, which in turn releases the free radicals. Okay, and these free radicals, they cause problem in organogenesis. Okay, now congenital anomalies is seen only in pre-gestational diabetes mellitus. Why? Because pre-gestational diabetes mellitus exists is from the pregnancy itself. Once the UPT has come positive, the pre-gestational diabetes mellitus is existing because it was present before pregnancy. So it is the diabetes which exists in the first trimester also. So the congenital anomalies will be only formed if these free radicals are formed in the organogenesis period or the first trimester. So in the gestational diabetes mellitus, there is no congenital anomaly. Congenital anomaly are seen only when these free radicals are formed in the first trimester, and that is in the pre-gestational diabetes mellitus. Okay, because early hyperglycemia, first trimester fetal hyperglycemia only will cause the anomalies. Now, which is the most common congenital anomaly? It is the ventricular septal defect, the cardiovascular anomaly. The most specific and the rarest. Now, when I say most specific, you think it is the most common. No, it is the most specific and the most rarest anomaly is a sacral agenesis or caudal regression syndrome, in which the sacrum bone is not formed, and that is what you were seeing here. Here there is no sacrum bone. Okay, sacral agenesis or caudal regression syndrome. The second most common congenital anomaly is neural tube defects, right? The neural tube defect are the second most common. Caudal regression syndrome and the uh, or the sacral agenesis, it is the rarest, but it is the most specific. It is only found in a diabetic mother fetus. Gestational diabetes and pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, they both cause macrosomia. The fetus of the diabetic mother is quite big fetus, macrosomia, and this is a 6 kg fetus. Okay, so they have been asking, if you get a big baby during the delivery, what problem can the mother have? So the mother has diabetes in the pregnancy. What are the problem the newborn suffers? The newborn has hypoglycemia, and all the ions, they are in the hypo state. So why there is hypoglycemia in the fetus? The in the congenital life or in the intrauterine life, the fetus was having hyperglycemia, right? Mother was having hyperglycemia, and that caused the fetal hyperglycemia, and that is why the fetus was making more insulin, so they were hyperinsulinemia. Once the fetus has come out, it has become newborn, has been delivered, now there is no hyperglycemia transmitted from the mother because fetus has come out, but the fetus body, the baby body, is secreting insulin in a very high amount, and that causes hypoglycemia. And other than this, the ions, they are also in the hypo state. So whenever you deliver a newborn fetus, please get its glucose done if it is a baby of a diabetic mother. Okay, so now let us see the answer to those questions. So sacral agenesis image you saw there. So what is in which problem you will be getting, in gestational or pre-gestational? Of course in pre-gestational, because gestational diabetes mellitus occurs at 24 to 28 week, and at this time there is no organogenesis going on. It has been already been completed in the first trimester. So in the pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, only you get the sacral agenesis or any other congenital anomaly. Not a feature of a baby born to diabetic mother. So hyperglycemia is not a feature of the newborn of the diabetic mother. There is always hypoglycemia, and moreover all the ions, they are in the hypo state. Hypocalcemia, hypophosphatemia, hyponatremia, these all are true. Okay, so the answer is hyperglycemia. So next is, a pregnant mother at 26 weeks period of gestation underwent oral glucose tolerance test. Fasting sugar is 130, and 2-hour post glucose load, it is 200. 200 means this is a case of pre-gestational diabetes mellitus, right? So it is a severe diabetes. It is a pre-gestational diabetes mellitus. Best test. What is the best test? So you know that for the diabetes, the best drug is insulin, because it cannot cross the placenta. So best drug is insulin. Okay, so we have to give insulin. It is a severe diabetes. So whether you will be giving it on the OPD basis, or you will be admitting the patient and then starting insulin. Of course, the patient once started on insulin can land up in hypoglycemia. So we will give it after admission only. So the answer is admit, RBS monitoring, and start insulin. Okay, so now another topic is for the diabetes in pregnancy is management of diabetes in pregnancy. Of course, the drug of choice is insulin because it is not teratogenic. Other choices, if patient is not able to afford insulin or not get the injectable done, is metformin, more commonly used and more safe than glyburide. Okay. Now there is a very common thing they asked us. The patient is diabetic and going in labor, right? So what is the special precautions you need to take? You need to omit the morning insulin dose, as the patient don't have routine meals on the day of the labor. So as the patient will suffer from severe pains, do you think that the patient will have a normal meals? No. So you are not going to give, it is not a routine day for the patient, so you will be missing the morning insulin dose. So in case you have given the insulin dose and patient has not eaten the food or eaten the breakfast, then the patient will land up in hypoglycemia, and that can kill the fetus. Okay, so you are going to omit the morning insulin dose, and cesarean is done for severe macrosomia, that is 4.5 kg. Okay, so let's see what are the question asked. Incorrect regarding the diabetes in pregnancy. Elective LSCS does not increase the incidence of brachial pregnancy. So once there is brachial plexus injury, once there is macrosomia, fetus during delivery has a problem of shoulder dystocia, so there will be no shoulder dystocia if the patient is delivering by cesarean. So it does not increase the incidence of brachial plexus injury. It is true, because once the patient is delivering by cesarean, then there will be no shoulder dystocia and there will be no brachial plexus injury. In active labor, if RBS is less, of course, if the patient is in the labor, if the patient is going in hypoglycemia, you will give dextrose, because if the mother will go into hypoglycemia, fetus will go and fetus may expire. So if the RBS is less than 70, please give dextrose. In a patient for induction of labor, if intermediate insulin is given and morning insulin dose given. So morning insulin dose, this is false and this is the answer. Morning insulin dose is omitted, okay, because the patient don't have the routine meals on that day, and giving the morning insulin dose, the patient may land up in the hypoglycemia. Capillary blood glucose is capped at near 100, so this is true. So all of these are true and answer is C, since we have to tell the incorrect statement. Okay. So that's all about diabetes. That is how we will be completing all the topics in a short and sweet manner. I hope you like this video. Thank you everyone.